The Lakers, yes. I'm going to put them here. It's LeBron. It's AD. If everyone could follow, do your thing, it can happen. It can happen. Hello and welcome to the Tuesday, October 18th edition of the TV on Basketball Podcast with your host, TV. Hope you're having a fantastic day. Thank you for clicking on to watch or listen to today's episode. Before we start, I do have to plug my other platforms. Remember to follow at TV on Basketball on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok for updates on your podcast and for other great content. If you're on YouTube, remember to like, share, subscribe. Also hit the notification bell so you will not miss an episode. For my podcast listeners, remember to subscribe and leave a review if you're on Apple. And for Spotify, Anchor, or Podbean listeners, just continue to show your support in any way possible. I highly, highly appreciate it. And man, the time has come. We are, at least by the time you listen to this, tonight is the start of a new NBA season. And I'm so excited to talk about this. And yes, I've been doing previews for the past couple weeks, and honestly it's almost been 2 weeks since I did the last episode, so yeah, I'm back for sure. But before we even go to this new season, I do want to talk about some more stuff pertaining to the NBA before we absolutely tip off, which is tonight, which is absolutely going to be absolutely fantastic. In this episode, we're going to be talking about some contract extensions that were just announced over the past few days. I'm going to be going through my NBA contender tiers. I don't want to talk about each team again. It's going to just be a drag. So I'm going to be talking about basically how I'm going to tier the contenders in each conference. And then finally, I can make my bold prediction for the NBA Finals and who's going to win Finals MVP. That's what I'm going to end today's episode with. So if you want to if you don't want to miss it, listen to the whole episode. It's going to be really, really great. I appreciate all of you for sticking with me. Haven't been posting on the social medias that much. Just been a super, super busy last 2 weeks. But man, I had to get on here to talk before the NBA season starts. So yeah, super excited about that. And if you have been following my Instagram and stuff like that, you would seen I would have been on a show the night prior. So thank you for looking for that if you do see me. Well, yeah, I have a lot to talk about on this show. I know I rambled for a bit there. Let's get right into it. Because, man, some crazy contract extensions happen, and there's going to be some huge implications, especially when we're talking about these first two players. Because, man, there was a discussion with the Golden State Warriors. Will they break the bank? Are they going to go even deeper into the luxury tax? And the answer is yes. They absolutely will go even deeper into the luxury tax because they have re-signed Jordan Poole and Andrew Wiggins. Let's start off with Jordan Poole first. A 4-year, $140 million contract with incentives. This is only the full amount if all the incentives are met, but it's a base $123 million guaranteed contract. And then you have Andrew Wiggins, 4 years, $103 million. In my opinion, kind of a steal, kind of a discount from Andrew Wiggins, but they re-signed him as well. And man, the Golden State Warriors are like, look, we have a young team. We still have people like Kuminga, Wiseman, Moody, all on rookie contracts. Hopefully and I think they're also hoping that the salary cap goes up after the new TV deal is signed. So they're locking up Jordan Poole, locking up Andrew Wiggins, continuing with the semi-youth movement that they have over there. And man, they looked at these two guys as obviously key contributors to a championship and also going forward just because they're very, very young. And they locked them up. And I think this is the right move they have to do. I mean, coming into the season, I think it's going to be Kuminga's third, maybe second. I think this is third season third season coming into this season. Or second. I think this is his second season. Yeah. There's coming a second season going in here. James Wiseman's third season. Same thing with Moody, his second season. So you have some guys you're going to have to maybe pay a bit down the line, especially if you want to keep the dynasty going. But good thing is you got two guys locked up already. We knew this was probably going to happen. We knew with all this talent that they had here, they're going to be like, we were expecting, the Golden State Warriors are going to have to make some tough decisions. And honestly, after that whole little mishap with Jordan Poole and Draymond Green, which really I didn't even get to talk about. I really should have talked about it on my TikTok, but I didn't. I think it made the decision a little bit easier. Maybe not just because of Draymond's attitude. I'm not going to say that because the Warriors have been able to deal with it for the past decade or so. But seeing what they have in Jordan Poole, especially with the amount, especially with how young he is and how we've seen him grow into the player he is. He is a fantastic shot creator, great 3-point shooter, one of the best free throw line shooters in the league. And also Andrew Wiggins, his ability to just be able to knock down shots and be an excellent defender for that team. Again, both of them at such a young age. Compared to Draymond, who, yes, his contract is going to be, if he opts out, it's going to be out at the end of this year. If he decides to opt into a $77 million contract in the next season, he's, of course, going to stay for another season. But when you have him and Clay basically going to be off the books this season and next season, maybe both of them next season, you knew that the youth movement you knew that the Warriors are going to be a bit smart with their money and keep the guys that they know they're going to be more effective longer. And that's not to say that Clay's still going to be a good player. Same thing with Draymond Green. But you're going to feel a lot more comfortable giving a mid-20-year-old and Andrew Wiggins a 4-year contract and a early 20s player in Jordan Poole compared to what by the end of the contract of both Clay and Draymond, they're both going to be 34. So the money was smartly was going to be going to the younger players, and the Warriors made that decision. The crazy part about the Golden State Warriors right now, though, is coming into this season, they already had like a $400 million plus luxury tax bill. With these new contracts taking into effect next season, they're going to be over $500 million, close to $600 million if Draymond Green decides to resign. So that's a lot of money. It is a lot of money being tied up into this team. I mean, the backcourt in of itself of Steph, Clay, and Jordan Poole, they're getting paid almost a combined total of $20 million in 2023, which sounds absolutely ridiculous. But the Warriors know in order to make these championship runs, in order to stay contenders, you're going to have to pay some money. And they decide to go the youth route, and I 100% agree with it. The question is really, will Draymond Green be a part of this? We're not sure yet. I think that there's a possibility that he does opt into that $27 million contract with the Golden State Warriors. But if he wants to stay longer, even long term, if he wants to be that lifetime Warrior along with Steph and probably Clay, he's going to have to take a discount. He 100% is going to have to take a discount on that. And yes, he's still going to be one of the most important players on the team, especially on the defensive end, being the defensive leader. But there's a reason why there was hesitation to begin with. When you get older, it's just going to get a lot harder for you to produce at the exact same level as he has done his entire career. It's just it's just how it goes. You run your cycle in the league. Of course, Steph is going to get the money. He's still one of the best players in the league. But Draymond, a lot's going to depend on what happens this season. If he's still that same Draymond, yes, he's going to get the money, this and that. But if he doesn't, then there's going to be less leverage on him into getting the contract he wants. Will he sign or not? I'm not sure. This really does feel like the pathway is open for him leaving the franchise. But we'll never know until we get to next season. But in terms of this season, they have all their guys back. I think even after that Draymond Jordan Poole incident, I think that'll just bond together more. I think they're going to move past that. And now that they have all these guys signed, less speculation up in the air, I think the Warriors are going to have another great season. I'm excited to see what they're going to be able to do. I think they did a really good job making sure that these contracts were dealt with. Yes, they're paying a lot of money, but I think if the Warriors are willing to do it, I mean, they know the books better than I do. If they're willing to do it, and they got the okay from the organization, the ownership, whatever, go for it. And they're going to 100% be continue to be title contenders for this season. Hopefully now with these guys locked up, they can continue to be title contenders for seasons going forward. Two more contracts I do want to talk about. One of them being a Canadian guy getting his rookie extension. Brandon Clark with the Memphis Grizzlies, 4 years, $52 million. And legitimately, I think this is going to be a steal of a contract. 100%. Brandon Clark is he's kind of built in the same mold as a Montrezl Harrell. Maybe not as much as a six-man type, get a bucket type scorer. But in terms of offensive rebounding, in terms of just putting the ball back in the basket when he gets to rebound, Brandon Clark is that guy. And we've seen him in that Minnesota Timberwolves series where he had a couple of 2010 games, an 18-11 game if I remember correctly. We know that when it is his time to kind of step up to the plate, when they need a bit more from him, he is able to step up to that task and rise to the occasion. And that's going to happen even more this season because, Jaren Jackson Jr. is going to be out for, part of the season once again earlier on. So not having Jaren Jackson Jr. on the court, you're going to have to you're going to have to get a bit more from Brendan Clark, who presumably will be added to the starting lineup. So if you can give, maybe like as a starter, he'll probably average like a 15 and 8 or sort of thing. If you can get that type of production from Brendan Clark and him be like your reliable bench piece going forward, I think this is going to be a really good contract. And again, the TV deal is approaching. That's going to have to be extended. Brendan Clark's contract is gonna look even smaller after that TV deal is signed. So I think it's an absolute steal of a contract. It's like 13 mil a year or something like that, which is absolutely crazy. Happy for him, and I think it's gonna be like he's gonna be a nice part of that young core moving forward. In Memphis, obviously with Ja, Triple J. I don't know if Dylan Brooks is dated long term. I hope he does, and of course the rest of the team, Desmond Bane as well. So he's gonna be really, really good. I think he's gonna be that's solidified bench piece there, kind of the bench mob leader. Excited for Brendan Clark to see what he's going to be able to do this season and do with the Grizzlies moving forward. And another contract I do want to talk about that just got re-signed. Nas Little of the Portland Trail Blazers re-signs a 4-year, $28 million contract. And honestly, not much thoughts on that. I think that Nas Little is someone that can provide meaningful rotation minutes going forward. Potentially, getting some starting minutes here and there and all that. He has had some injury issues in his career so far. That's why I think the amount that he's getting is a little bit lower than probably what we thought he was going to get a couple years ago. But he's locked down for this team. It's not a lot of money whatsoever. So even if he doesn't turn out to be, a reliable rotation piece, you're not giving him too much money. It's like $7 million a year. So I think it's a good contract to have for the Golden State Warriors. You're going to need these defensive wings who could, potentially shoot the ball, kind of athletic like a Nas Little. So I think him being returned to the team, again, someone who can solidify their bench, some just more wing depth, really, really good. I think it's a nice contract that the Blazers got him for. Glad that he is able to return. So yeah, those are the contract extensions I want to talk about. Let me know what you guys think. Do you think some of the contract extensions for the Warriors were overpays? I don't think so. I mean, the Poole thing is very similar to Tyler Heroes, and I think that they're about the same level, so I think that's fine. And then I think a lot of these other ones, Wiggins, Little, and Clark, fair contracts, or even at some point maybe a little bit underpaid. So let me know what your thoughts are on these contract extensions below. Let's move on to the next topic, and this is where we're going to be talking about the NBA contender tiers. I was really dilly-dallying back and forth as to how many tiers I want this, and ultimately I've come for 6 tiers. These are the 6 tiers I'm going to go with. I'm going to go with the East and then the West first. But here are the 6 tiers I'm going to be going with. At the very bottom, we have Brick for Vic. I think there's going to be a lot more of these guys near the end of the season. But at this very moment, Brick for Vic are those players, or those teams that are they're literally going nowhere. Winning doesn't do them any good. Just completely tank the season away. These guys have just no shot whatsoever. I think a 0% chance, maybe 0.1%. But those are the 0% chances. The tier above them, we have Fun Way to Lose. I think these are young teams who are going to be lottery teams for sure. Potentially worst teams in the league, but they're going to be a fun team to watch. And they're going to lose a lot of games, but I think they're still going to be really fun to watch. One of those definitely good league pass teams, but definitely still part of the lottery. Moving up, we're going to be going to No Days Off. These are the teams that are not going to really make noise in the playoffs, but when you face them, it's not going to be an easy game whatsoever. I think they're gonna provide a lot of scares for these top teams. There might be some random Wednesday night, and these teams pull up an upset against Clippers or a Warriors or a Bucks and sort of that. You can't sleep on them. That's basically what this whole tier is about. The tier above that, I have 1 or 2 years away. These are teams who I think are going to make the playoffs, and I think are not no pushovers whatsoever. But I think they're going to have to wait a couple years before they're going to be in that contender status. Maybe because they're young teams, or maybe it just will take some time for that team to gel. But these guys, I just would say, are kind of a year or two away. Just more development with the team. Just keep these teams together, and they'll be better on, a year or two from now. The next tier above that is if all falls right. Now, these teams are the ones who are, you can make a real case that they're going to be contenders this year, but I don't think they're the same, the top tier talent as the guys I'm going to be talking about afterwards. But if all falls right, these teams can take fully advantage of it, and they can be able to make a finals run, or potentially an Eastern Conference Finals run. It just has to all fall their way, and I think that could definitely be a possibility with these teams. And at the top tier, the tier 1 teams are just the true contenders. The teams where you feel like throughout the entire season, when it comes to the playoffs, you just know that they're going to be able to fight, and they're going to be one of those teams where you can really make a true 100% you can make a case for that they can be able to win the championship. Like each of these teams, you could definitely see them winning. And then we're going to go basically from bottom to top. Again, I'm going to start with the East right now. Let's get into it. Firstly, let's go for Brick for Vic. I think there's really just one team in the East that's going to go with the Brick for Vic, that's in the Brick for Vic tier, and that's the Indiana Pacers. Tyrese Halliburton's going to be a fun player to watch. I'm excited to see what Benedict Mathurin does this season. But, I look at this team, and I'm just like, you're going to have to trade Buddy Hield at some point. You're going to have to trade Miles Turner at some point. I really don't think that this team is going to pull off a lot of wins, if many wins like whatsoever. This is not a very good team. Again, I think Tyrese Halliburton on his own is going to make this a fun team to watch, but they're not going to make any noise. Honestly, once they trade away again, Hield and Turner, they're going to be one of the worst teams in the league. Plain and simple. I mean, Duarte's going to get some points. Again, I said Benedict Mathurin. Hopefully we see some, production from Isaiah Jackson, Jalen Smith, and all that. But this team is nowhere near playoff contention, and they purposely probably want to lose in order to, as the tier suggests, Brick for Vic. They want to have a chance at Victor Wembanyama for sure. That's why they're at the bottom tier. Fun way to lose. I think there's two teams in the East here that they're young. I think they're gonna be a lot of people are gonna have their eyes on them because of the young star talent they have. But they're clearly lottery teams, and there's nothing they're not really going to put a true scare on the contenders, and that's the Charlotte Hornets and the Orlando Magic. Let's start with the Charlotte Hornets first. I mean, LaMelo Ball is going to miss the first few weeks of the season, so the Hornets are basically in that Brick for Vic tier without LaMelo Ball. But if he is playing, he's going to be a fun team to watch. He's a highlight reel all on his own. Yes, there's a lot of question marks with the players around him. No Miles Bridges, and good. He's just not on that team anymore. He's not in the league. But besides him, I mean, I guess you're going to get some fun moments from Terry Rozier. Dennis Smith Jr. might take up some starting minutes while LaMelo's out. It's an okay team, but they're going to need a year just to rebuild, retool, just so you know who's going to be with them going forward. But as long as LaMelo Ball's on the court, I think they're going to be a fun team. I'm excited for what they're going to do this season and just see how good LaMelo is going to be because there's not much help around him. There's no good center play, honestly, even this season, and that was their biggest issue last season. But I think because of their youth there, I'm excited to see, and just LaMelo Ball on his own, he's going to be enough to be in that fun way to lose category. And of course, the Orlando Magic. This Orlando Magic team, having Paolo Banchero here, is going to make this team extremely, extremely fun to watch. Again, I don't think their roster is going to scare anyone, but there are a lot of nice young talented pieces on this team, and Cole Anthony, Markelle Fultz, RJ Hampton, Caleb Houston, I want to see what he's able to do. Of course, Banchero. I don't even know if Jonathan Isaac is... I don't know what's happening with Jonathan Isaac. But you still have players like, Franz Wagner, Wendell Carter, Mo Bamba, Bol to see if he gets any minutes. There's a lot of just interesting pieces on this team, and I think yes, they're going to lose a lot of games, but I think they're going to be a fun watch. I think that's going to be, again, one of those League Pass teams which I'm going to be keeping my eye on when I have League Pass this season. So I think the Magic are going to be a fun team to watch just to see how the number one pick is going to be able to lead this team. Now we're going to move on to the no days off tier. And there are honestly, I think, more teams than I expected here for the Eastern Conference. And I think the most surprising team I'm going to put here is the Detroit Pistons. I do believe that they are a tier above fun way to lose. Yes, they have a lot of young pieces in Sadiq Bey, Cade Cunningham, Isaiah Stewart, even their new draftees in Jalen Duren and Jaden Ivey. But they have made some moves to bring in some veterans to this team in Nerlens Noel, Alec Burks. They've also brought in Bojan Bogdanovic. I think they're for real. Not for real, but I think they're going to put a scare on some of these top teams, especially with head coach Dwayne Casey. He's going to have them ready for each game. Yes, Marvin Bagley also is going to miss the start of the season. He's part of that young core as well. But I think that they're going to actually put some scare in a few teams. And they're going to be, again, a fun team to watch just a way to see how these guys are able to grow. And if Cade can take the next step to be kind of that number one option, a 20-plus point per game scorer, 8 assists, 7 rebound type guy, he's going to be a legit leader. And I think that there are going to be some games where you see the Pistons knock off a Celtics or a 76ers and stuff like that. I think it's going to be a fun team to watch. And also, they might make some noise. They could be a sneaky play-in team for sure. We have the Wizards as well. Mostly because of their top two guys and Bradley Beal and Porzingis. These are two technically all-stars on this team. They both have made all-star teams before. And they have a solid supporting cast with Rui Hachimura, Monty Morris, Will Barton, and just to see the rest of the team again with Kyle Kuzma and stuff like that. I think that this is a solid team. They can vie. They can vie for a play-in spot, but nothing more than that. I think that just their talent alone can help them compete, and you can't really have a rest day against the Wizards. But I still think that they're gonna lose a lot of games, and yeah, they might put up a fight against some of the tougher teams, but I think at the end of the day, those tough teams are just on a whole another level, as seen on this list. So yeah, the Wizards, they can sneak into a play-in spot, maybe win one play-in game, but I just don't think it's gonna get past that. Next team, the New York Knicks. Again, there's just way too many spots out here in the East. And I think the Knicks are a solid team. I do like what they did this offseason, re-signing Mitchell Robinson, bringing in a Jalen Brunson to solidify that point guard position. And honestly, the rest of the roster with Julius Randle, RJ Barrett, bringing in Isaiah Hartenstein, which another good pickup I like. Getting back Derrick Rose, having players like Emmanuel Quickley, Evan Fournier on that team. It's a solid team. It just sucks that the East is just completely loaded this year, and I still think that talent is still like a tier below a lot of the other teams in the East. But again, it's not gonna be an easy game against the New York Knicks. They're gonna be scrappy. They're gonna have a good defensive identity. At least they're gonna try with Tom Thibodeau over there. They're a good team. I just think that just compared to the rest of the East, their talent is just not there. It just isn't, and that's why I have them in the no days off tier. Next up, the Chicago Bulls. And this is mostly due to the fact I just don't know, we just don't know what's going to happen with Lonzo Ball. Yes, they have 2 All-Stars, technically 3. You have Nikola Vucevic there as well. Zach LaVine and DeMar DeRozan, it might be, it's a good chance that they're good enough to take them to the playoffs, but again, a lot of teams above them, it's just hard for me to see them finishing above them, even if they have to play a play-in game. Maybe that's probably their best chance, but I just think that their talent is not there, and losing Lonzo Ball, losing your best distributor, one of your probably your best perimeter defender, he just means so much to this team, and again, one of their better rebounders as well. I think that's going to be such a huge loss. We don't know when he's going to come back. That's why I think with his situation of the year, I'm going to put him in the no days off. They could definitely still win near 45 games. And again, I still think that's a stretch. But it's not going to be an easy game versus the Bulls. Yes, their defense might be a little bit iffy, but the Bulls are still a good team. I'm excited to see what they're going to be able to do this year. Of course, I just love watching DeMar DeRozan and Zach LaVine. Hopefully, a fully healthy season from him. But they're in the no days off tier for sure. A year or two away for the Eastern Conference. You have 3 teams that are very, very young. And I think they need some time to be established before they can make true noise in the East. But these guys can also surprise some people as well, and maybe take that jump early. We have the Cavs, the Raps, and the Hawks. I'm gonna start off with my Raptors. I think they have one of the best coaches in the league, obviously, Nick Nurse. And what I love about this team is just them bringing everyone back together and kind of improving their bench with nice little pieces here with a Juancho Hernan-Gomez, a Otto Porter. Those type of players, I think they're going to be nice additions to the team and provide some meaningful minutes. But I think that they're still a couple years away. They need some development from Scotty Barnes. Some of the young guys as well, like OG Anunoby, Precious Achua. Hopefully they can continue to grow. Maybe they can take that leap next year. Honestly, they could even finish as a top 5 seed. But when in terms of just playoff contention, I just don't think they're there yet. If they go up against any of the teams above them, I would be a bit more confident that they're gonna lose. Maybe against one team they might make the shock, but I think the Raptors are just kind of young right now, but they could surprise a lot of teams for sure. They're not gonna be no pushover in any playoff series, so I think the Raptors are kind of in this tier a year or two away. Same thing with the Atlanta Hawks. Yes, they brought in DeJounte Murray and they mortgage a lot of their future, giving up 3 unprotected first-round picks. But I do think Trae Young and DeJounte Murray, they're both in their mid-20s. I still think they got a couple years left together before they reach their peak powers. And then you have some young guys on that team with John Collins, DeAndre Hunter, Onyeka Okongwu as well. You have these guys. Yes, they're really good, and they could honestly make a surprising run to the Eastern Conference Finals if all things fall their way. But I do think that I just have a lot more faith in the teams above them making some noise more than the Atlanta Hawks. Again, if in most years, this team would be potentially a top 4 seed. But with how deep the East is right now, it's going to be hard for them to even make the 8 seed, which is really, really crazy. But it just is a testament to how much talent there is in the league, how much talent there is in this conference. I'm excited to see what they're going to be able to do. But they're still kind of maybe a year or two away. Hopefully you can like wait for these other teams to get older and you can like really pounce on that. But just not right now for the Atlanta Hawks. Next, the Cleveland Cavaliers. I know what Donovan Mitchell can give, and it's great that they have like that star player on that team. But I think like another year with Mobley, Garland, and Allen, along with Mitchell together, honestly, wait till next year. That's when they're going to make, honestly, a ton of noise. This year, I'm going to, just as Kobe Altman said in the preseason, hold your breaks. This is not a make or break year for us. I just want to see how the team, gels together. I kind of see it that way too. They can surprise a lot of teams. Once again, I'm going to make this argument. If, things, go ahead of schedule. But if just look at the schedule right now, they're kind of a year or two away. Let them develop together. They're all basically on long-term contracts. See if they work, and then afterwards, they can really make some noise, potentially be a finals contender in maybe 2 or 3 years. But I just don't think this season is it yet. Might be. Very, very slight chance. But again, I just trust a bit more, like, there's just a bit more, boom potential with the teams above them. Now let's move on to if all things fall right. And we're going to talk, and in this category, I have 3 teams again. The 76ers, the Heat, and the Nets. The Nets, I'm going to talk about them first because they are the most volatile team on this list. If all falls right, what I basically mean is if KD and Kyrie are at their best, playing a good chunk of the games, if Ben Simmons returns to his Defensive Player of the Year candidate form, and is a very, very just good player, All-NBA player once again, and if, Joe Harris can come back a bit healthier, sitting with Seth Curry, they get their minutes, I believe that they have the pieces, they have the talent to make it to the NBA Finals. Now, are you going to be able to trust all those pieces? Probably not. That's why I think that although the Nets are technically like near title contenders, you have the Cavs, you have the Raptors, and I believe the Hawks, if they all face them in a playoff series, they could potentially win. They could potentially win. And it's not because of their talent. It's just like this team, like, you just have too many question marks. Whether it's injuries to, again, Joe Harris and Seth Curry, they're not going to be available at the start of the season. Ben Simmons, we haven't seen him play in like 15, 16 months. How is he going to look? Kyrie, we don't know what's going to happen throughout the season with him. KD, injury issues as well. There's just so many question marks on this team, and I just don't think there's too much to rely on. But if all falls right, if all these things, come together, they're a really good team, they can win a title just on the talent alone. That's why I have them on this list. But honestly, in the year or two away tier, all of these guys can have a better chance than the Nets if things start falling apart. They could beat them in a 7-game series. But I think in terms of boom potential, the Nets have the talent to make it all the way. Do I trust it? Probably not, but they have the potential to. The Miami Heat, I'm going to put them here. I'm not going to put them in sharp contenders because they lost PJ Tucker. I think that's going to be a big piece that they're losing. But we still have to give them respect. Jimmy Butler's still on this team. They got Kyle Lowry. Hopefully he's better and more healthier this year. Bam Adebayo hopefully can become a Defensive Player of the Year candidate this year as well. The Heat always seem to find these gems that no one has ever heard of, and they play meaningful minutes on this team, whether it's in the regular season or the playoffs. So I do trust their player development. And I also just think that Eric Spoelstra, one of the best coaches in the league, are going to put him into position to win a lot of games and also be a chance to go further into the playoffs 100%. I think that there's still a lot of talent on this team, and I'm excited to see what they're able to do. And with the leader they have, and just kind of the other guys being able to bind to the system, into the Heat culture. That's the one thing I'm going to say in this episode. But if all falls right, injuries kind of go their way, and if Jimmy Butler can have another god-tier playoff run, which we've seen him in multiple years have done it now, they have a chance. But it's, again, it has to all fall right. I still think that the top, especially the true contenders in the East, I think there are a tier above. That's why I have this tier list. But yeah, the Heat, I'm gonna have them in all falls right. But you gotta show them some love. You gotta show them some love for sure. And then the 76ers, I would 100% put them in true contenders. But the reason I have them basically at the top of all falls right is I just do not trust their injuries. James Harden, Joel Embiid, they're two best players on this team. have had especially over the last few years, a history of injury problems. And sometimes, it's the reoccurring stuff, but sometimes they're just super unlucky. Really. I mean, last year, Joel Embiid, it got a freaking, a facial fracture in Game 6 in a blowout win versus the Toronto Raptors, and he gets, a facial fracture. This is, this is just a 76er thing. It's just things, when it starts finally going on the up, it kind of just gets slapped back into reality. And I want him to make it further. I want him to, Embiid to be in his first Eastern Conference Finals. But there's always that one or two things that are just unfortunate circumstances that are, pulling them away from it, unfortunately. But yeah, the 76ers, I still think, they are very, very close to that true contender status. If they're healthy, if their players stay up, I would put them there. But there's just too many doubts, especially with the injury issues with that team. And also Doc Rivers in the playoffs these last few times, kind of choked it up. But I have him in all falls right, probably at the top of that tier. And then the two contenders, plain and simple, you have the Milwaukee Bucks and the Boston Celtics. Yes, the Celtics are dealing with the Ime Udoka problem. I think it's going to have, honestly, little impact on their team. I think that there's still going to be good vibes with that team. You're going to have another, full year of Jason Tatum of development, Jaylen Brown. You still have Marcus Smart on that team. And the addition of Malcolm Brogdon is fantastic. I think that team is still going to win a lot of games and be a true threat in the East. We just got to hope that Robert Williams comes back healthy and is a great contributor to that team. Because honestly, the loss of him in these first 12 weeks or so, I think they're going to miss that more than they're going to miss Udoka. Yes, Udoka really turned their season around last season, but I still think that this team really knows the goal for the season. And I think they're going to still come together and play really, really well. But Robert Williams is going to be that anchor of that defense. As much as Marcus Smart won Defensive Player of the Year last year, Robert Williams is going to be their most important defender, their rim presence, their lob threat. He's extremely important, and he needs to be back healthy. And if they really want to win a championship, he needs to be back. Bring him in a bit slowly, but as long as he's fully healthy for the playoffs, this is a true contender in the East, 100%. The Milwaukee Bucks too. I mean, you have Giannis, Middleton as well is going to miss maybe the first 3-4 weeks of the season, but as long as everyone's healthy, and especially their big three of Jrue Holiday, Giannis, and Chris Middleton, they're going to be contenders. I mean, I think they've won 72% of the games where all three of those guys are playing. That's a lot of games. That is a lot of games. And then they also still have Brook Lopez, Bobby Portis, Pat Connaughton, solid bench players around them, and of course a really good coach in Coach Bud. Whenever you have the best player on the court, in the league, you're gonna have a chance, and then you have a great supporting cast along with him. Yeah, the Bucks are still contenders. There's not much really you have to go with there. As long as they have this core together, and as long as they're playing at still an elite level, they're contenders. And I truly believe they have a chance to win the East once again this year. So yeah, those are the tiers I have in the East. Let me know down below what you agree or disagree. Let us move swiftly over to the West, because this list is a bit more sporadic. Let's move on to the bottom tier of the West. We're going to go for Brick for Vic. And there's three teams for me that are going to be at the Brick for Vic status. One, the Utah Jazz. Literally no one's going to watch them this year. I mean, maybe it's going to be fun to watch Colin Sexton, Lauri Markkanen get 20-plus points a game. I don't trust it. They're not going to be a fun team to watch. I have them probably near the bottom of the West. Give me the Spurs next. Their best players come Johnson or Devin Vassell. I'm not going to be watching the Spurs. Sorry, Pop. Yeah, I'm not going to be watching the Spurs. But it would be fun to see if they can get Wembanyama next season. It would be very, very fun. And the OKC Thunder. If Chet was there, I would put him in the tier above. But now that he's not there, it's basically the same team as last year. Maybe you added a couple of Jalen Williams to that team. But, they might still be fun. With Shea, Giddey, Lou Dort, who got a new contract. But at the end of the day, it's still the same team as last year. They're probably going to miss some games too with minor injuries that they're going to, prolong just so maybe they have a chance of getting Victor Wembanyama too. But Brick for Vic, those are the three teams. No one's going to honestly, after the first 2 weeks, no one's going to be talking about them. Maybe OKC gets into another one of those, crazy game-winning endings that they did last year against the Pelicans. But, Shea is going to put up good numbers. Giddey hopefully takes the next step in his growth. But again, no Chet. I'm not going to be too interested in watching this team play on a daily basis. There's going to be only one team in the fun-to-lose category here, and for me, it's just the Houston Rockets. You got Şengün finally getting more minutes now that Christian Wood is no longer in the lineup. You have Jalen Green. You got the number 3 pick in Jabari Smith. You re-signed Kevin Porter Jr. Actually, I didn't even talk about that earlier. He signed a 4-year, $82 million contract. There's still a lot of question marks with him, but if they think that he's their point guard of the future, good for them. But I think that the Houston Rockets are just going to be a fun team to watch. You have, again, players also in Josh Christopher coming off their bench. They still have to get rid of Eric Gordon for sure. But you have a lot of these guys, a lot of fun guys. Going to be a lot of gritty wins. Even someone like Atari Eason, I think that he can provide some good minutes for them as well. I think they're going to lose a lot of games, but I think that they're going to be just a fun team to watch, hopefully, especially if Jalen Green gets the green light all season long, averages near 23, 24 points a game. You're going to be wanting to watch some of the Jalen Green explosions. That's why I have him in this tier. Fun way to lose. Moving on to no days off. I've got 2 teams here. I have the Portland Trail Blazers and the Sacramento Kings. I'm going to start with the Kings because I think that, yes, the Kings are the Kings, and they're going to probably king it up. If you've watched this podcast long enough, you know what that means. They're just going to disappoint every year. But looking at their roster, Domantas Sabonis, De'Aaron Fox, hopefully he's healthy this year. You brought in Malik Monk. You have, the number 4 pick in Keegan Murray. And just some nice, rotational pieces in Terrence Davis, Kevin Huerter, who I think is going to play a big role this year, Davion Mitchell off the bench, Harrison Barnes is still a solid player, Rashawn Holmes. There's a lot of solid players on this team. And if things fall right for them, they could be a playing team. Not as much as I'm going to go with them for the Sacramento Kings, but I think it's going to be like a tough matchup versus the Kings. Not even joking here. Sabonis and Fox are really good players, and especially if Fox can return to his, get back and on his trajectory of being an all-star point guard. This is gonna be a fun team to watch, and I think they're gonna not they shouldn't be taken lightly. Do I think they're gonna make the playoffs or not? I wouldn't bet on it, but I still think that there's going to be one of those teams where you're yeah, they're going to take they might take a game off the Clippers or the Suns or the Warriors one night, that type of thing. So yeah, the Kings, I have them in no days off, along with the Portland Trail Blazers. And for me, this is just one of the hardest teams to predict. I don't know how Damian Lillard's going to bounce back from his injury, but I think he does have a better roster than he did last season. Now they have Josh Hart, they have Jeremy Grant as new additions, Gary Payton, unfortunately, he's going to miss the first couple weeks of the season as well. They re-signed Anthony Simons, so hopefully he could take the next step. Hopefully we get to see some nice, flashes from Shaedon Sharpe as well, their first-round pick. I mentioned earlier they re-signed Nas Little to that team. I think it's going to be a fun team to watch, and I think if it really, if things really click for this team, they can be a playoff team. But there's just, again, too many question marks. I don't know if Dame is going to be able to carry this team, especially with how loaded the West is, to a playoff spot. But you can't doubt them. I mean, I'm not going to... If you told me that, put a gun to if the Blazers do have a chance to make it to the playoffs, if you make that argument that they could be the 8th, 7th, or even 6th seed, I would believe you, but it just would take a lot for the other teams to kind of be pushed down. But whoever they face, Damian Lillard is still one of the best point guards in the league. Whoever they're going to face, they're going to have a hard time having to deal with that. So again, that's why they go into the no days off category. I'm excited to see how they're going to be able to do this season. Hopefully, Dame can get back to his form and potentially lead this team to a playoff spot, because that would be really, really good for them. Next tier, we have a year or two away. And these are the teams where I feel like a couple years from now, these guys are going to be running the West soon, but they just have to wait for the older teams to kind of just move down a little bit. We have the Pelicans, the Timberwolves, and the Grizzlies. And once again, this has nothing to do with regular season record. It is just, for me, their chances in winning the championship. Let's start off with the Pelicans. The biggest question mark is how good Zion Williamson is going to be. It's not even how good Zion Williamson is going to be. When he's on the court, he's going to be a beast. If he can stay healthy, that is the biggest question. Because last year, honestly, them putting up a fight against the Suns was really, really fun to watch. Add Zion to that, people maybe are just overrating them too much. We're going to be they're 100% going to make the conference finals now. They're not. Probably not. But I think that in a couple years from now, you have these guys signed to a long-term contract. I think the Pelicans could be one of those teams that are going to 100% make some noise this season, especially with Zion, Brandon Ingram's on that team, CJ McCollum, who they trade for, so that's just a big three on its own. Then you still have players like Jackson Hayes, Jose Alvarado, some other good players on the team, Devontae Graham, a nice little bench piece for them. Dyson Daniels, who's a draft pick, there as well. Herb Jones, who I think is going to get some all-defensive votes this year. Solid backups and Larry Nance. And, of course, they have Jonas Valanciunas starting at center. It's a solid roster. Again, the West is very, very deep, so it's going to be extremely tough for them. But if they, fall into a 5th, 4th seed, I could see it. I just don't think they're ready for a deep playoff run just yet. That's why they're in a year or two away category. Moving on, the Memphis Grizzlies. I was very, very close to going for if all took a look at this team and be like, and I'm thinking about it, and I was like, again, a year or two away. They're a year or two away. Second place last year, 56 wins, was a big, big jump that honestly I don't think anyone saw coming. But what this really proved to us is that Ja Morant is that guy. He's going to be one of the best point guards in the league for the next decade. But they still have to deal with some injury issues. I mean, Ja Morant has always nagging injury issues. That's going to happen throughout the season. They're going to be missing Jaren Jackson because of his foot injury in the beginning of it. But they still have a solid roster around them with Desmond Bane, Zaire Williams. Of course, I mentioned Brandon Clark, who just got his contract extension. They still have Steven Adams. I think it's a really, really solid team. And they can really range anywhere from 2 to 7. Or even who knows, they could even win the 1 seed. Who really does know with this team. But I do think, this Memphis Grizzlies team, they're gonna make a lot of noise. But I just think that in terms of playoff aspirations, again a year or two away. They're a super young team, so they have the time. But I just don't think that this year is their time yet. Then we have the Timberwolves, and this is a team a lot of people again are high on, kind of like the Pelicans, especially with the addition of Rudy Gobert. I think that this team is gonna need some time to gel. Gobert's gonna improve their defense tremendously, but do I trust Anthony Edwards or Karl-Anthony Towns to be a number 1 scoring option just yet on a contending team? No, I don't think so. And I also have some question marks about the depth on their team. I mean, there's a lot of question marks with D'Angelo Russell. What type of Russell we're going to get this year. I think they still have solid players, again, with Kyle Anderson, who they brought in. Jaden McDaniels is going to be a solid player for them. Austin Rivers, Jordan McLaughlin, Brent Forbes. All these guys, they're all gonna get meaningful minutes on this team. Naz Reid as well. I want to shout him out because he's a solid backup. But they're gonna need a year to kind of put things together and truly see if this team is a contender. I think Anthony Edwards can reach that level. I think that Town can take his game to another level as well. I just don't think this year is gonna be the year. That's why I have them as a year or two away. They're still pretty young. I mean, besides Gobert, this team is relatively young all around. So they have time, but I don't think this year is going to be the year they're going to be contending just yet. They're going to be a tough out no matter who they face in the playoffs, but I still think, again, they are a year or two away. Moving on to if all goes right. And again, there's going to be this one team that people are going to be like, oh, why do you have him in this and that? Look, it's my list, and also, again, if all goes right. If all goes right. First, the 3 teams I have here, I'm just going to go with them one by one. First team, the Dallas Mavericks. A lot of people are very excited for this team, and the biggest reason why I have them in all fall goes right is because Luka Doncic is just that guy. He is just that guy. He is one of the best players in the league, in my opinion, a top 3 player in the league. And I think that he might have one of those he's due. I'm not gonna say due, but he has the potential of pulling off one of those Dirk type runs going to the NBA Finals. Now the West is completely stacked, and it's gonna be a really, really tough task. But Luka Doncic is just that good of a player. I could see it happening. They do have a team around him which I think fits his playstyle more, and Tim Hardaway Jr., Spencer Dinwiddie, who's probably gonna come off the bench. They have Bertans, Dorian Finney-Smith, Maxi Kleber, Christian Wood, who I think is going to be a really good addition for this team. JaVale McGee. I think that this is a team built for Luka Doncic, and I think that they're going to have a very, very good season. But do I trust them to make a finals, West Conference Finals run, especially with how many great teams are there in the West? Not really. But again, if all goes right, Luka Doncic is such a good player that he could possibly do it on his own. But it's highly, highly doubtful. Again, I think they could also be taken down by a Pelicans, Timberwolves, or Grizzlies team. But if all things go right, like I said, the Dallas Mavericks, Luka Doncic, can get to the finals, and they could put up a fight. Just because Luka Doncic is just that great of a generational player, I think they're gonna have a chance just because of him. Next team I want to talk about is the Denver Nuggets. I was so close to putting it 2 contenders, but I just think that expecting Jamal Murray and Michael Porter Jr. to put up their second and third option type numbers right away is a bit too much to ask. Next season, put all the pressure on them that you want. But right now, I'm going to give them a bit of a leeway because of the people coming back from injury. I still think it's a really good team. You have Jamal Murray. You have KCP. You have good again, more surrounding good pieces in Aaron Gordon. You have Bruce Brown, which is going to be a great addition. Bones Highland, hopefully he gets better. I think this is a very good team. And honestly, again, this is why they're on this list. If it all goes right, they can make the finals and possibly win a championship, especially with how good Nikola Jokic is. But I just don't think they're on that level of the next three teams above them right now. So I have the Nuggets if all goes right, but they are basically like right on the border of true contenders in my opinion. They're that close. And then this team, I don't want to talk about too much. The Los Angeles Lakers, the Lakers. Yes, I'm going to put them here. It's LeBron, it's AD. If everyone could follow, do their thing, it can happen. It can happen. Is it? Am I highly doubtful of it? Yes. But again, if all goes right, the Lakers will be back in the finals. I mean, that's their goal, right? That is their goal. Do I think they have the pieces to do so? Probably not. But if all goes right, you have LeBron James, you have Anthony Davis at their best. Honestly, if they're at their best, they're both top 5 players. They're both top 5 players in the league, and that should be enough to potentially move you into the NBA Finals. Now, injuries, team fit, are those issues? Yes. And you have a first-year head coach in Darvin Ham. Those are a lot of issues to think about. And honestly, there's a very big chance that the teams like in the tier below, like the Pelicans, the Timberwolves, the Grizzlies, honestly, even the Blazers, can knock them out of a play-in or even a playoff spot. But if all things go right, the Lakers could be in the finals. I'm just gonna put them there. They're kind of like the Brooklyn Nets of this, but even they're like a tier below the Brooklyn Nets. They have a chance. Let's have a chance. That's all I'm gonna say. But LeBron and Anthony Davis said if they're healthy, they're playing at their best, could be enough. Could be. Let's move on to the true contenders. And there are 3 true contenders I have here in the West. We have the Warriors, the Clippers, and the Suns. Let's talk about the Clippers first because they're the team that I have the most questions about, mostly due to health. But we've seen a healthy Kawhi in the playoffs, being able to just drag teams to the NBA Finals. And this team is probably one of the deepest teams he's ever played with Nicholas Batum. I can go on and on with the team, honestly, with the guard rotation of Reggie Jackson and John Wall. You have Batum, Brandon Boston is a solid player, Luke Kennard, Norman Powell, Amir Coffey, who's solid, Covington, Zubac. I can go on and on. Of course, Paul George is on that team, Terrence Mann, Marcus Morris. Man, that's a lot of like solid NBA players. Now, the only question mark I have with this team is their center position because past Ivica Zubac, you have Moses Brown, and I just don't think that he's like gonna be like the center you want to be, starting if Zubac does go down. But they're a really good team, and they have one of the best coaches in the league in Tyronn Lue, so they have a chance. They really do believe they have a chance. The injuries are the only thing that's really gonna be holding them back. And maybe just trying to figure out these rotations because you want to have all these guys playing. But again, there's just so many minutes that can go around. So that might be an issue. But it's a good issue to have. This is a really good team. And you have like probably a top 3 playoff performer when healthy in Kawhi Leonard. So that makes them trial contenders. And you, of course, have a borderline top 10 player in Paul George. I think they're going to have a chance coming into the season. The next team I want to talk about is the Phoenix Suns. And really my only concern for them is kind of just the outside, like kind of like the relationships in the locker room. I mean, apparently the vibes were absolutely horrible in media day, but they're still getting wins in the preseason. I don't know how the whole DeAndre Ayton saga is going to end. Like, is he going to get traded in January? And what is he going to get? What's going to be given back to the Phoenix Suns? We'll have to wait and see. But really, this is title or bust for them because Chris Paul isn't getting any younger. Yes, Devin Booker is going to be a long part of their long-term future, but this is probably going to be the last great year you're going to have a Chris Paul. If he even has a great year, we still have to wait and see. But Phoenix, I think, has a good... We've known this team that can make the finals. We know it can, but it's just a lot of just like team turmoil right now. I just kind of like don't trust it. But if they're all clicking, they can make another finals run. That's how good this team is. I mean, you still got Cameron Payne on that team, Landry Shamet. They brought in Damon Lee, who I think can play some minutes. Torrey Craig. They still have Mikal Bridges, Cam Johnson. Starch is back from injury. I think they have a nice like roster, and again, a very good coach in Monty Williams. It's just like hard to trust this team. I can trust this team. It's just like how is this team gonna look by the trade deadline, like past that, because that's gonna be their championship winning roster. What's it gonna look like? But if they can figure things out, if they can, push whatever bad feelings they have to the side and try to focus on their one goal, which is the championship, they can win it. That's how good this team is. I trust it more than other teams, but a lot can change in these next few months. We just have to wait and see what they are. And of course, the team I have here in True Contenders, Golden State Warriors, defending NBA champions. You just cannot have them anywhere but this. I would have them as the potential favorites in the West. Steph Curry, Clay, a full season of Clay, Draymond Green here, another full year of Jordan Poole, and then hopefully their young guys in Moody, Kuminga, and James Wiseman all provide meaningful minutes. Because if you look at that team as a whole, if all those guys are clicking, they can make another finals run. That's how well the Warriors have been built. They have kind of like each position pilled. I mean, yeah, they lost guys like GP2 and Otto Porter, who were key components to that finals run last year. But they're trusting in their developmental system. They also brought in guys like Dante DiVincenzo to play some nice backup guard minutes, and also Jermichael Green to play some forward minutes as well. So they're going to be like solid pieces for them. But I just think that with this team, their pedigree, the history that they have, they're going to be like true title contenders. There's no like arguing that. There can be something they're going to be mad at on my list, whether it's the Lakers, whether it's the Nets. But I think everyone is in unison know that the Warriors are going to be like one of the top contenders in the West for sure. That's why they're probably near the top of this list. But yeah, those are all my West, playoff tier lists or contender tier lists. Let me know down below if you agree or disagree. Do I have some teams too high, some teams too low? I know that the Lakers are going to piss off a lot of people, but there's a chance. Last thing I have to do before I move out of this podcast or before I end today's episode is give my finals prediction. And this is going to be fun because there are a lot of different matchups I can see. I was debating back and forth, especially with the team in the West. I was kind of adamant on the team in the East. I was flipping back and forth between these two teams in the West. And I've decided, for me, the NBA Finals this year is going to be the two defending champions facing off against each other, the Milwaukee Bucks versus the Golden State Warriors. And I have the Bucks winning in 6. Giannis Finals MVP for the second time in his career. I think the Bucks are going to be NBA champions this year. It's not a flashy pick. Both teams are can very well no one would be surprised if both these teams finish, come out the West representing them in the NBA Finals. But these two teams are really, really good. Are very, very good. Elite teams, historically great teams on both ends of the court, defensively and offensively. I think they're going to put on a fire series in the playoffs, but at the end of the day, if these teams do face in the finals, Giannis is going to be a tough cookie to stop. He's going to be a tough guy to stop coming down the lane. And if you have a healthy Middleton, a healthy Drew Holiday, hopefully both teams come into that finals series healthy, which honestly is probably unlikely because it's been a whole NBA season before that. But I think it's going to be a very good series. Again, Bucks versus Warriors NBA Finals. I have the Bucks winning in 6. Giannis winning Finals MVP. Let me know down below what are your finals predictions. Maybe you have someone else in the West coming out. I mean, literally, it was, for me in the West, it was between Warriors and the Clippers. And I want to be bold with the Clippers, but I can't trust. The Clippers are going to Clipper. They might Clipper out. So that's why I don't have them there. But yeah, Bucks versus Warriors. I don't think anyone's going to be mad if that is the NBA Finals matchup that we get. But yeah, I think this is the end of today's episode. Thank you guys for watching and listening. Remember to show love on all the podcast channels. Like, share, and subscribe. And hit the notification bell if you are on YouTube. And remember to follow TV on Basketball on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok for updates on the podcast and for other great content. Next week, I'm going to be uploading another episode going through the first week of the NBA season, overreacting to what is going on so far because that's what we do over here. I'm going to be coming out with that probably... Again, I'm not going to put myself to a schedule, but sometime early next week, probably like a Monday or a Tuesday, so be on the lookout for that. And honestly, this year, I'm going to try my very best to do daily TikTok uploads, maybe to the Instagram as well. Just even short videos. That's like my goal for the season. Even though I'm not going to be as active because I am going to be very busy with school, I'm going to try to still give you that little TikTok daily upload, even if it's a quick video, this and that. I'm going to try and get those videos out to you guys. Again, thank you guys for all the support. Hope you have a fantastic day. Take it easy, guys. This is TV signing out. Peace.